Welcome to Prizefights Podcast. I'm Josh. Check us out on prizefights.us. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and we're on YouTube as well. Pacquiao Bradley. This is Monday, a couple days after the fight. What do you think? I'll give you my take now. Leave comments, tweets, whatever. I'd like to hear what you think. Getting right to it, I gave Bradley the first 2 rounds and the last 3 rounds. I gave Pacquiao everything in between. Every round was 10-9. Not a real hard fight to judge for me. So I agreed with Jerry Roth, 115-113 for Pacquiao. Dwayne Ford and C.J. Ross disagreed, and that's why the boxing community and the sports world is upset. They had it 113-115 for Bradley, thus giving Timothy Bradley the split decision victory. He's now a welterweight champion, still undefeated. And many experts, nearly all experts, are calling this not only a bad decision, but a robbery of epic proportions. Dan Raphael of ESPN, who picked Bradley in a close decision, is outraged. He has a story up on ESPN of Pacquiao's robbery, calls it a putrid decision, one that he doesn't respect. He tweeted Saturday night, or Sunday morning, probably Sunday morning, that he is shocked and that, quote, I don't even know what to say, end quote. He scored the fight 119-109 for Pacquiao. Jim Lampley tells Dan Raphael that it's the worst scoring he has ever seen. Now just think about that for a minute. How many epic disasters and robberies has Jim Lampley seen and called? Quite a few. I'll mention some here in a minute, but that's a really telling comment that Jim Lampley said this is the worst scoring he has ever seen. Bob Arum, take it for what it's worth, says that when he entered the ring after Friday night's fight, before the scorecards were read, he told Tim Bradley, you did very well. And Tim responds, according to Bob Arum, I tried hard, but I couldn't beat the guy. Now, if anything's more telling than Jim Lampley's comment, it's that. That's very revealing, folks. And Bob also says that Bradley's manager had the fight 8-4 for Manny Pacquiao. The Associated Press, Yahoo Sports, Steve Karp of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and Daily Telegraph's Garrett A. Davies all had Pacquiao winning 117-111. Again, Raphael had it 119-109, as did HBO's Harold Letterman. This is quite the case we're building here for an outrage. Dan Wetzel of Yahoo Sports tweeted, blame here has to fall on Pacquiao's strategy of punching Bradley more, often, and harder. Zing. Jim Rome, the worst decision ever. Aaron Rodgers, football quarterback. Unreal, ridiculous, stupid, bogus, etc. That fight wasn't close, and I was pulling for Bradley. Kieran Mulvaney from ESPN, 117-111. He calls it a debacle. And Teddy Atlas, whose video interview on ESPN you have to hear. I think it's under the link Bradley breaks foot during match. Click that link and you'll play that video of him being interviewed, and he's off the hook. Remember that Teddy Atlas is no Manny Pacquiao apologist. But he says boxing is a corrupt sport. It's an injustice to the fighters, to the sport, to fans. He says a rematch means that the criminals get rewarded. I mean, he calls them out. You got to listen to that. Shane Mosley, hands down Pacquiao. Winky Wright, wrong decision. De La Hoya, quote, Bradley should have given the belt and announced victory to Pacquiao right after the decision, end quote. Juan Manuel Marquez, I didn't think the fight was close. I think Pacquiao won by at least 5 points. No, it doesn't make me happy that he lost that way, but now he knows how I felt this past November. Good point. Lennox Lewis tweets, decisions like Pac Bradley are exactly what's wrong with boxing and driving fans away. People are fed up. Floyd Mayweather Sr., for crying out loud, says that he thought Pacquiao won. The Sports Center poll, last I checked, Monday about 10 o'clock a.m., had about 82,500 voters. 85% think Pacquiao won, 15% say that Bradley won. What's my point? My point here is simply that those out there who agree with the 2 judges who had it for Bradley and who say that it's obvious that they're right, yes, there are some of you out there saying that, and parenthetically, I'll say that you have the reputation of being Pacquiao haters, you need to appreciate the general consensus from boxing fans, experts, and boxers themselves. There was a general consensus that Pacquiao-Marquez 3 was close, if not the wrong decision, and you same folks were pointing to this consensus a few months ago. Now you're dissing the consensus. That's weak. Well, why are some, including myself and Sports Illustrated's Chris Mannix, agreeing with Jerry Roth in scoring the fight 115-113 for Manny Pacquiao if it was such a dominant Pacquiao win, according to other fans and experts? Pacquiao landed 253 of 751, 34%. Bradley landed 159 of 839, or 19%. In fact, CompuBox had Pacquiao landing more punches than Bradley in 10 of the 12 rounds of the fight. Pacquiao also landed 190 of 493 power shots, while Bradley landed 109 of 390. That's from Bleacher Report. Yet I thought Pacquiao won only by 2 rounds, so what does give here? Why didn't I see what everyone else is seeing, what everyone else saw? Well, before I get to the beef of this podcast, the controversial part, let me remind you of Jim Lampley's comment. We've seen some bad decisions, haven't we, boxing fans? And Jim Lampley has called them from ringside. Think of Oscar De La Hoya versus Sturm. Evander Holyfield versus Lennox Lewis won. That was outrageous. That was called a draw. That was for the unanimous heavyweight champion of the world, undisputed. A draw? Oscar versus Sweet Pea. Sweet Pea won that fight. How about Foreman versus Briggs? That's one of the biggest shockers I've ever seen. That was disgusting. No way Briggs won that fight. He got his face pounded all night by Big George. Mayweather versus Castillo won. Another fight, the judges were looking at something else. Chisora versus Helenius. That's a recent fight. Most people had that 10-2 for Chisora. And he lost it. And now we have this Pacquiao-Bradley fight that makes the list of biggest robberies ever. Yet I saw it very close, so what does give? Now here's where it gets controversial. It's very interesting, though. I watched the Top Rank telecast. Okay? Brian Kenny, formerly ESPN, now works with MLB Network and does Top Rank boxing calls, evidently. He kept telling his viewers over and over and over and over how competitive the fight was and how difficult many rounds are going to be to score. And color analyst Mario Lopez was saying the same thing. So all throughout the fight, the commentary is helping to shape how you view the fight. So I want to know if there are any Top Rank viewers out there who saw the fight from Top Rank's stream. Can you tell me how you score the fight? I'm just asking the question since Top Rank, if anyone does, has a political, economical agenda here, a dog in the race, as it were, and if they can use their production of the event to manipulate the perception of what viewers think they're seeing, surely they would, wouldn't they? So what I'm going to do now is watch the HBO telecast and see how I view the fight from that perspective. Because everyone is talking about, turn the volume down, watch the fight. Turn the volume down and watch the fight. See what you see. They understand that commentators can and do have the ability to influence your perception of the fight. And maybe even not just the commentators, but perhaps the camera angles too. Well, why the loss then? There are possible answers out there. Here's one. The judges are getting back at Pacquiao for the gift he got against Marquez 3. Now, while there were different judges last night than Dave Moretti, Robert Hoyle, and Glenn Trowbridge, who scored the Marquez fight, there still is a boxing culture out there, and that's a possibility. I don't go with that one, though. Here's a really ridiculous one by BoxingInsider.com, says that because of his recent comment on gay marriage, Pacquiao deserved to lose. Now, he's not saying that it was in the fix, but what a stupid thing to say, because Pacquiao has a stance on gay marriage and he made it vocal that he deserves to lose. That's just a bit of political writing there. I discard that right away. He probably wouldn't have written that article if Pacquiao came out in favor of gay marriage. One that is suggested by Teddy Atlas is that Pacquiao has not renewed his Top Rank contract. He's not sure about that, but he thinks likely Pacquiao is up for a renewal and he hasn't renewed that. And so here's a little bit of revenge from Bob Arum. Don't know about that one either. Well, possible Mayweather-Bradley fight. Perhaps that was what is going on in the back narrative here. There are two undefeated fighters. Now that Bradley has the limelight and more attention, that's perfect for Mayweather when he gets out. That could be the case. I'm not sure when the Pacquiao-Bradley rematch has to happen, but I would not be surprised if Mayweather gets a piece of him first. That way he can defeat him pretty well, if not knock him out, and then show everybody how Pacquiao couldn't do it. And then he never has to fight Pacquiao. He gets to ride off into the sunset. Who knows? All we know is that Pacquiao lost to Bradley. Bradley won. Don't fault Bradley. The judges were bad, not Timothy. Timothy had good head movement. I was very impressed at his defense, his ability to get out of punches and avoid the straight left hand, although everyone else is saying that it landed over and over and over again. I didn't see the left hand landing that much. I saw it rocking his head back when it did land, but I didn't see that dominant. He was bending at the waistline like Pernell Whitaker. Good stuff from Timothy Bradley. He had courage, overcoming a fractured foot and a swollen ankle. He threw a ton of punches. I mean, really, who outthrows Manny Pacquiao? His chin was good. He got thumped hard by that big left hand. He took it well. He got a second wind. He was out of gas, I thought, in the fourth or fifth round. He says he got a second wind in the sixth round, but I didn't see that second wind coming until 9 or 10. But he hung in there. He was draping his head in the corner. His corners trying to encourage him. He looked like he was ready to cash it in the fourth or fifth round, but he pulled through like a champion. And he's a classy guy in general. It's hard not to like Timothy Bradley, family guy. So don't fault Timothy Bradley. He's just accepting what the judges gave him. And Pacquiao, he'll be fine. He did look a lot better than most people predicted. People thought he was declining. I don't think I see any decline in Pacquiao. He looked good, more focused. There are still probably not a lot of fights left for him in terms of who's out there. There's Mayweather and there's Tim Bradley again. That's about it. We'll see what happens. My big 2 points in this podcast: productions do have a way of influencing how you perceive the fight. And it would be a good idea to watch these fights on YouTube through different channels, maybe the British channels, maybe Top Rank, maybe HBO, maybe turn the volume off and see how you score the fight. That's the one point. The other point is, I think that even though I scored the fight closer than what everyone else is scoring the fight, I still appreciate the public consensus, both from the boxing community, from general sports fans, from boxing experts, and from boxers themselves. And to ignore that because you're a Pacquiao hater, or you just don't like the guy, or because you're a Timothy Bradley homer, is really arrogant. And I've heard some people say that it's just obvious that those two judges who scored it for Bradley had it right. So what was Jerry Roth thinking? What's all these boxers and boxing experts and the whole world's thinking? That's a really arrogant position in my view. And it wasn't the same thing these same guys were doing when Marquez got robbed. So you guys need to knock that off and smell the coffee. Maybe you didn't see it right. What were you seeing? Try a different stream, a different network, and tell me again. And try to be objective about this. I think the two telling things here, if Bob Arum was telling the truth, and I don't think he would say something which could be corrected, the next day by Bradley, that Bradley told him that he tried to win but he couldn't win before the scorecards were read, that's big. And for you to stick to this arrogant opinion that it was obvious that Bradley won, I'm sorry, but evidently Bradley himself didn't think he won. Go tell it to Bradley. And also Jim Lampley. Who doesn't respect Jim Lampley? He's a boxing guy. He has seen it all. And he says this is the worst scoring he's ever seen. Now, while the public consensus doesn't define truth, that's a fallacy, it still is something we should appreciate, especially when it's so overwhelming. So back off of the Bradley obviously won positions and check out a different stream and watch it again, turn the volume off, do something differently to give yourself a different take on it. That's what I'm going to do. Again, I had Pacquiao head 115-113, but I'm in the minority, and I acknowledge that. And that's all for this edition of Prizefights Podcast. Again, check us out on prizefights.us. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and check us out on YouTube. Thanks for listening.